Thank you, Dean Janeth. And Val's introduction reminded me of a story, so I'm going to share it. George passed away, and the local newspaper called his wife to ask her if she would like to have something written about George. She said, of course. And she went on to explain the virtues of George and how great he was as a husband, as a father, and et cetera, et cetera. At that point in time, the person on the line interrupted her and said, ma'am, let me just tell you that we charge $5 per word. At that point in time, she said, okay, well then why don't you write, George died? The person came back again and said, no, ma'am, we have a policy of 5 words minimum. She paused and said, then why don't you write, George died, Buick for sale? Well, Chancellor Drake, leadership, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, class of 2014. I want to thank you for making me a part of your day today. I know how special it is. And let me take this opportunity to thank our departing Chancellor for his leadership for the past 20% of the life of this institution. The diploma you're about to get today is much more valuable because of Michael Drake. I was asked to spend 4 minutes trying to inspire you, and I assumed that that did not include the time to translate my accent. So I'm going to go for about 8 minutes, and I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit about some lessons that life taught me that have helped me survive. Because I believe that survival is the foundation of success. Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest of species that survives, and it's not the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that is most adaptable to change. As Val said, I grew up in Lebanon during the Civil War. The war started when I was 17, and my life changed abruptly. 11 years later, as she said, we had to leave everything behind, come to the US, and start over with nothing. My life didn't always go according to plan, and neither will yours. But if one plan doesn't work, you manage to find another one that does, then maybe one day you might be standing right here trying to inspire 800 people who are on their way to change the world. Life taught me to imagine, to dream, but not to plan ahead, too far ahead. When you are forced to get off course, adjust in real time and move on. Every lemon can be turned into a lemonade. When we were living through the war, most of the time we had no running water, no electricity, and few loaves of bread meant standing in long lines for hours. Things that we had taken for granted became very precious. Life taught me never to take anything for granted. And while we were struggling to survive and making sure that we don't get killed by a bomb or a sniper or get kidnapped, we had to go to school, we had to play sports, and we had to keep up with our peers in the world, because we knew that the world was not going to stop. Life taught me that the world doesn't wait for me. You just have to keep on going, otherwise you will become irrelevant. I look at you today, and I have to admit that I am a bit jealous. You see, I never had a commencement in my life, not even a high school one, and as a matter of fact, this is the first time that I am in a cap and gown. It feels good, by the way. Every commencement that we were supposed to have had to be canceled because of the situation. And when I graduated in 1982 from the American University of Beirut, I came close. I picked up my cap and gown, and I was looking forward to the experience that you're going to have today. We had plans to go backpacking in the Greek islands. However, a few days before commencement day, a big war broke out, and I found myself volunteering in an operating room at the American hospital during the war. Not exactly what I had planned, and rather than a cap and gown, I picked up my diploma in a bloody scrub suit during a couple of hours of the ceasefire. But I have to admit that those probably were the most valuable 90 days in my life that changed my perspective. Trying to help people whose lives have changed forever in an operating room really put things in perspective. And I learned to realize what the real problem is. A 10-year-old girl who has just lost her legs and her family is a problem. A business setback is not. Life taught me to differentiate between a problem and an inconvenience. When you live in survival, your instincts become much more vivid, much more sensitized, and your reflexes become much faster. I can tell you that my instincts saved me and my family many times. And as a result, life taught me to trust my instincts. Today is your rite of passing. Today is a day that is defined by a ceremony that highlights a change in your status. This will be one of the few times in life where a change of status will be highlighted to you. And most of the changes you will see in life will not have a ceremony, speeches, or a shift of a tassel. Enjoy the moment and pat your back on the back because you deserve it. And remember that there are people out there who have been with you every step of the way, and this is their day too. But from here on, most of the change you're going to go through will be change that you might notice too late. And I can tell you that a lot of the changes that I went through in my life that appeared to be devastating at the time turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Life taught me to recognize change, embrace it, adapt, and move on in order for me to redefine my relevance. Now, losing everything was very difficult, but I can tell you that today I look back and I realize that it was the most liberating thing that ever happened to me. Because life taught me that there was nothing more enabling for me to know who I am than to realize that materialistic things do not define who I am. This last lesson is one that unfortunately a lot of people learn too late in life. Your life is going to be filled with temptations, and during times of greed, and during times of fear, it becomes easy to justify that the end justifies the means. Your moral compass will alert you. Do not ignore it. Because life taught me that when all is said and done, you have to be able to look yourself in the mirror. And if that person looking back at you does not approve, every gain in life will be hollow. Now, class of 2014, you are set to go and take over the world. And I believe that you have what it takes to be known as the best generation in history. You are and here's why. You are social, you are team players, you are confident, the information sits in the palm of your hand, and you are a friend of the environment, and those are things that are great foundational attributes. Now, my advice to you, and I have one: filter out the noise. Just filter out the noise. You are bombarded with negative sound bites all the time. You are the generation of facts. Call BS. Because yes, you might have some problems to deal with, but the world that you're getting into today is much better than the world that we got into when we were your age. And you have more tools to use to make the world a better place. In 1982, when I was graduating, there was no internet. There were no mobile phones. There was no office software. There was no DNA testing. There was no MRI. And your best friend in college, Wikipedia, wasn't there to bail us out. So as you come up here in a few minutes and cross the stage and get handed over the baton to run the world, take a deep breath, because there are 70% less pollutants in the air than there was 30 years ago when others crossed the stage. Class of 2014, congratulations to you and to your loved ones, and God bless America.